Look at you.
So
What up?
I'm just eating dinner because we ate a lot at lunch and now we're finally hungry.
We had a bunch of leftovers for dinner tonight.
What were the leftovers?
It was like a smorgasbord: chicken pot pie, chicken wings, salmon bites. It's basically where you take salmon and you like cut it up into little bites and put it in an air fryer with like some seasoning.
Yeah.
Steamed carrots. There was some Chinese noodles from like Tuesday, like some chicken lo mein. It was literally like everything in the fridge that's not finished, like throw it on a plate and give it to the kids.
That's awesome.
Yeah. They love it. I'm introducing them to Star Wars too, so we watched a little bit of Star Wars. Or like Darth Vader appeared tonight for the first time, and they're like, "Who is that?"
Yeah, have fun waking up to nightmares later.
I know. I really hope not. It was maybe a little too much too soon.
Yeah, Charlie doesn't sleep through the night, and right now she's teething, so it's like 9 o'clock when she wakes up. But we just pull her into bed. But even when she's not teething, it's like anywhere between 11 and 2 typically, and we just pull her into bed. But it's still like, and we love it. We love the cuddles, but
Yeah. No, I remember those days. Oh man.
are you still setting things up? Because I don't want to distract you if you are.
No. It's pretty informal tonight. There's like 3 questions I posed to them, and we'll walk through those. And out of that, I've got like a few other questions that I think might be helpful or relevant, but nothing too fancy. Nothing too fancy. I do have like a few announcements I'll make.
Oh, yeah, I was excited for that.
And then that's pretty much it. Mike. And
Mike, have you had any more rejections?
He's like, I don't want to talk to her.
A lot of conversations, and but like it's kind of where it stops. It's like it's going good, and then I'm still like, I don't really want to reach back out yet. You know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things. So
that's good that you're at least getting responses.
Yeah, it's actually a lot of people that I'm meeting at the in the Army. You go through the SFL TAP process to get out. I don't know how like Marines is, but there's a lot of people in there that like you do introductions and you're kind of looking around like, all right, who's someone that might be interested in tech. Yeah,
it's cool, man. I got a lead from Eugene today. Eugene's not here yet. He shot me one, and Andy shot me one today.
Oh yeah.
Matt is here. Matt, how's it going? Matt's new. Matt just joined the program today. Welcome.
Hey, what's up?
Welcome, Matt.
Hey, what's up?
I want to do like probably like remember last week or maybe it was 2 weeks ago I did like a welcome call to just kind of like let everyone meet each other and do like a little bit of welcome. I think I might do another one maybe like next Friday or like Friday afternoon's good for most of you guys to like hop on a quick 30-minute call to just do some
Depends what time.
I'm gonna ask everybody. Jonathan, what's up, dude?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, it's nice to meet all of you guys. Thanks so much, Andrew, for having me on.
Of course, man. Colin, dude, if Santa Claus was a
what's up,
redhead,
man?
Santa Claus is a
man.
redhead, bro. That's like such a
It's
badass beard you got.
it's getting out of control. It definitely needs to be maintained because I think when I first started talking to you, I didn't have anything, and then now I just let it get just
I
not
feel like
regulations anymore.
you got like an inch a day, bro. Hey, thanks for joining, man. I know that it's late and you guys might have like family stuff or just you might have things going on in the background. Like feel free to like if you can't make it isn't reasonable to turn cameras on, like don't feel like you have to. Obviously it's nice if you can, but if you can't, no worries.
I like how you said that right when I turned on my camera.
Yeah. That was a nice way of saying, Jeremy, turn your freaking camera off. No, I'm kidding. You're good, dude. You're good. Hey, Erin.
Hello.
Hello. I like how Cole's autopilot joins, but Cole doesn't join. All right, we're going to wait a little bit longer for a few folks. There's Andy. Nate, how's it going, man?
Fantastic.
Nice. All right, I think we actually have everyone in the program here. We're waiting on a few folks. So I'm just going to do a quick, does everyone have access to raise your hand in the meeting? Okay, so if you're prior Army or in the Army, raise your hand. I want to kind of get an idea of who to here. All my Army people raise their hand. All right, and my Navy people are the rest. Navy, Eugene, Jeremy, and then Air Force people, raise your hand. Wah, wah. No Air Force people. Probably better that way. And my Marines. Caroline. All right, cool. Mark said he was on his way home and he might be a little late. And I wasn't. Eric. You guys haven't met Eric, but Eric is on the arena team. And I wanted to introduce him. He said he's also a maybe. I do want to get the most out of this. At 8:31, we got everybody, so I'm going to get us started here and kick this off. So thank you all for being here. We do have some new members. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go through all the intros with everybody. I know Will's new. Where's Matt? Matt, you're new today, and Colin is new today. So thank you guys for joining. Welcome to the program. Mark's here. Tonight is special. It's a closed webinar just for arena members. And what I want to do is give you guys a taste of, I've mentioned to all you guys that I'm going to expose my network to you guys as you're going through the program. And this is kind of a taste of what that is. So I've met a lot of different salespeople in my career. And having the benefit of working at Salesforce for the past 4 years, I've met some incredible folks at Salesforce. And Erin and Haig are two of those people. And they were kind enough to spend their Thursday night with us. And so I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but tonight is really informal. We have 3 questions that I'm going to ask Erin and Haig, and my hope is that you guys jump in with questions as they come up or as you guys see fit. And it's okay to go down some rabbit holes if we need to, if it's appropriate. But the idea here is to really serve you guys and give you guys a better idea of what it takes to get into tech sales and what it takes to be successful in tech sales. All right. So with that, I will ask Haig, do you mind kicking us off with just an intro of yourself, a little bit of background?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So my name's Haig. It's all good. It's all good. Everyone gets it wrong. I spent a short 3 years in the Army. Got out in 2023, I started as an 18 X-ray. Any of my Army guys are familiar with that. And when that didn't work out, spent some time in the 82nd Airborne. Got pretty badly injured and ended up with a med board at 3 years. So that's my sad little Army story. But came out on the other end of that, starting at Salesforce in November as a BDR on Erin's team here.
Awesome. Thanks, Haig. I appreciate it. Erin, do you mind kicking us off with a little intro?
Of course. Great to meet everyone. My name is Erin Maximo. As Haig said, I am his manager. I help to co-lead our federal BDR team at Salesforce. I have been at Salesforce collectively for 4 years. I started as a BDR just like Haig. I was on the state and local team, did that for a year, got promoted into our ECS, which is our inside account executive role, still supporting state and local. Did that for a year and a half. Left Salesforce for a year to work with Steampunk, who's one of our partners in the federal space, was covering part of DoD, aerospace companies, and mainly CBP. And then my dream job opened up of coming back and leading part of the organization that really helped to launch my sales career. So jumped at the chance to come back to Salesforce, and I've been back for about 2 years. But I've been in tech sales my entire professional career since graduating from George Mason. So excited to hopefully give you all some best practices and tips and tricks tonight.
Thanks, Erin. And last but certainly not least, I'd like Mark. Mark, everyone has heard me talk about you as I've introduced the Arena program, but I don't think everyone's met you. So Mark is my co-founder, and he and I had this dream, man, like 24 months ago. It started off as just a crazy idea, and here we are. So Mark, do you mind a quick intro, man?
Absolutely. Hey, everybody. Mark Rothschild, 10 years in the Navy, and then I had this crazy idea to get out and go into sales. Got a little help through a program, and I realized how important it is to network and have the right introductions when breaking into tech sales. True story, I applied to a whole bunch of places when I was getting out and got outright rejected. One of the places, I won't name names, Zoom Info, immediately rejected me. And then when I went through the program that I went through and applied through their portal and through their introductions, I got an interview. I didn't end up taking the job because I still hold a grudge, and I still hold a slight grudge nowadays, 7 years later, or whatever it is. But I noticed, at that point I saw, okay, it matters who you know, it matters how you get into tech sales. And then once you're in, right, like it's up to you to succeed and to do what you need to do. Each year as I got further and further out, I continued talking to veterans, and I realized how difficult it still was to break into tech sales and how you still need to network. And even when I was looking for a job 6 months ago, I realized how important it was to go to my network and find the right ways in and work those introductions and that the veteran network too. So Andrew and I are happy to put veterans at the center of what I'm doing. I'm really excited to be here, and I have a soft spot in my heart for Salesforce because I worked for a Salesforce ISV when I first got out, and it's a great place to be.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, we're going to kick this off. I wanted to provide a lot of space and room for you guys to ask questions as they come up. So I'm posing 3 questions to Erin and Haig. The questions are, first, what are some things you guys can do to just get the interview, right? So how can you differentiate yourself in that phase of trying to find a job? Is how do we get the interview? How do we get in front of Erin, right? The second question is, once we get the interview, how do we differentiate ourselves in that process? If I'm interviewing with Erin, what are some things I can do as she's interviewed at least hundreds of candidates? What are some things that stand out to people like Erin? So the second question is, how do we do well in the interview? And then the third question I've posed to them is, okay, now we got the job. How do we do well in the job? Specifically, we'll focus on the BDR role since that's where Haig and Erin are working today. So those are the 3 questions that I posed. So I'm going to kick it off with question number 1. And I think so we're like just kind of uber organized is I'll just call on one of you, and then if the other one has something to chime in, we'll just do that. And then if anyone has a question, just raise your hand, and I'll just call on you guys in order as questions come up. Okay. So the first one is Erin. In your experience interviewing lots of candidates, what do you find the best way for them to go about just getting the interview?
Yeah, great place to start. At a place like Salesforce, where when we have a BDR role posted, we're getting hundreds, if not thousands, of applicants. It's a lot of pressure for our recruiters to screen all of them. And sometimes, unfortunately, you're at the mercy of what's on your resume, and it might not clearly align with the job description. But what I'll tell you is that you shouldn't let that stop you. Haig is a great example. I have a whole host of people on my team that come from very non-traditional backgrounds. I have a professional soccer player that came directly from the MLS to our group. Haig came directly from his stint in the Army. We have people that came from tech sales and people that came from nothing to do with sales. So I think, when you have that non-traditional background, for the BDR role at Salesforce, there's really kind of two things that I would really lean on. One, build your network of people that actively work at Salesforce, because a referral goes a very long way. If someone that I don't know lands in my inbox in LinkedIn, I might look at them, but if Andrew is coming to me or Haig is coming to me saying, hey, I have this person in my network and I really think you should talk to them, it carries a bit more weight for me because I trust their judgment. I know that they probably have screened them. They're not just sending me a random person. But that doesn't mean that a random LinkedIn message to a hiring manager isn't going to work. When you do that, you want to show that you've prepared for what you're trying to prove in that message. So if you don't have the benefit of having a referral, all of you on this call do, because you now know Haig and you obviously have Andrew to help. But if you are sending a message to someone that you don't know or can't get a foot in the door to get yourself seen, my biggest piece of advice is doing that over preparation. Build your network of people that actively work there in the role that you're looking for. Get an understanding of what they do every day. Get an understanding of how even their manager is. I'm sure Haig's only been with me a short time, but he probably knows a lot of my quirks and what makes me tick. So, one thing that I have noticed has become a slight pet peeve for me when people reach out is they tell me, oh, I want to work at Salesforce because it's Salesforce. Who wouldn't want to work there? And I always need a little bit more, right? Like, what's your passion? Sales is going to be a hard job. You're going to get told no more than yes. So working at Salesforce just because it's Salesforce, when you get into it and you realize it's a complicated industry, a complicated product, and a very, very, very fast moving company, it sometimes isn't enough, and you need something a little bit stronger to keep you going.
That's great. Haig, anything to add?
I mean, I think stretching out throughout your network is really important. Not only for me applying to Salesforce, I did get referred to someone that currently works there as an account executive. And that came just from really branching out and talking to as many different people as I could. And that included, the veteran community in sales, not in sales, and the non-veteran, network that I've either built or people from my past life before the Army that I was able to get in touch with. So I think that network is really important. And but I think kind of another big thing is being able to translate your experience properly. I feel like a lot of veterans throw in their application and it gets immediately declined, but the experience wasn't properly translated. And I think that can be a real roadblock. So for me, a key part in not only my confidence in getting the interview and my confidence in the interview, but also, it wasn't only it didn't only give me confidence there, but it also kind of helped me understand where my skills could apply. So it all kind of ties together, in my opinion. I think being able to translate your experience properly is a key part in that as well.
Yeah, I'll add to that really quick. There was one question that I don't know if you remember your answer, but it was, I think, what probably won me over when I interviewed you, is I asked him very specifically, based on your experience in the Army, what makes you feel like you're the right candidate for a BDR role? And I don't know how much research you actually did on me with your referral, Katie. She knew a little bit about what I look for, but based on the makeup of my team, I could care less if you've ever made a cold call coming to me. I care more about, do you have the intangibles that I can't coach you on, that I can't teach you? I can't teach you to be hungry. I can't teach you to be curious. I can't teach you to be resilient or gritty. And those were all the things that Haig mentioned. And it helped that he answered some of my more sales acumen questions, right? Because he did his research and his homework. But those are the things I can't teach. If you have an inkling or curiosity to want to figure out sales, the BDR role is a great place to do it. But if you don't have that motivation or that grittiness to keep you going when you get hung up on for the 65th time that day and you need to make call 65, I can't teach that. I've tried and failed many times. So that's a huge part of what I personally look for. Nathan, go ahead.
Nate, you're up, man.
Thank you so much. So, Erin, you mentioned intangibles. I'm assuming you're talking in reference to soft skills. And the one that you specifically mentioned was resiliency. Are there any other soft skills or any other intangibles that you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, absolutely. Resiliency is super important because in sales, you're going to get told no more than you get told yes, especially in a BDR role where you are cold calling people and sometimes ruining their day. Grit is a really important one at Salesforce. We have this mentality that's called get it done. And it's one of our core competencies in BDR where you're just kind of being scrappy and doing whatever it takes to get where you need to get. For example, we had a rep on a different team yesterday. He was one opportunity short of hitting his quota. He spent, I think, 2 hours in the morning just ripping cold calls from the floor. He ended up setting a same day meeting and it happened and it actually split into 2 opportunities for him. So he walked into the day thinking he was going to miss and he walked out being in accelerators. So grittiness is very important. I would say another one is definitely kind of the coachability, because there's a lot to learn, right? No matter where you're from, I was a BDR or an SDR at 2 different companies before coming to Salesforce. I still had a lot to learn when I came to Salesforce. So that innate curiosity to want to learn more is really important for me as well.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nate. That was a good one, man. Jeremy?
Yes, Erin, you talked a bit about recruiters going ahead and filtering you out fairly quickly. I've had some success specifically at Salesforce with networking with recruiters like Mike Nolan or Dave Anderson, who are VetForce affiliated, and they care about the veteran community. But it seems with Salesforce and similar organizations, when I reach out to a recruiter on LinkedIn or otherwise, they don't seem to respond or they're uninterested. Is there any way to stand out to get their attention without big credentials already on your profile? Or are we only going to reach them by being referred to them?
That's a great question. I have a few friends that are in recruiting, and when I hear about the sheer volume of people reaching out to them constantly, asking what jobs are open, where they fit, it can sometimes just be too much for them to manage on top of screening candidates that have already applied. My piece of advice would be to go to the hiring manager. Most smart hiring managers are going to post on LinkedIn when they have recs that are open or headcount that's open so that they can use their network or kind of poke their network to say, hey, I'm looking for a rock star. Do you know anyone? Because at any company, a referral carries a lot of weight, but it definitely carries a ton at Salesforce, because what can happen, and what has happened many times, I've done it several times, we'll get a referral from an AE that I respect or someone that was a BDR with me who I know kind of gets what we're looking for. They're not just in it for the referral bonus or trying to get their friend in. What I typically do is I'll have an intro call with that person to really understand why you're looking at Salesforce, why you think this is the right fit, and what got you interested in sales if you do have a non-traditional background. And then if I want to learn more, and if there's maybe something there, I'll go straight to our recruiter and I say, hey, Jeremy just applied. He has a bit of a non-traditional background. I just talked to him. I'd like to see him in an interview. So reaching out to the hiring manager, I think, would be where I would steer you towards instead of trying to go to the recruiters on LinkedIn.
It's a good question, Jeremy. Thanks, man. Andy?
Now, are there any hard skills you're looking for?
Yeah, good question. The ones that we screen for in our interviews all have to do with sales acumen and cloud acumen, like understanding the tech and situational scenarios on, how do you manage up, how do you deal with conflict. When we do have someone that comes through with a non-traditional background, we do try to understand that, if you were coming from the Army, you don't have KPIs that you were maybe beholden to before. So we'll adjust our questions accordingly, and we may ask a little bit more about those soft skills. But at the end of the day, sales to me is not rocket science. Half of it is just being in the right place at the right time and calling the right person, which you can't plan for. There's a lot that's out of your control. So while there are hard skills that we may look for, when I have someone that's a bit non-traditional, I just look for what did they do to prepare for the interview? Do they understand what they read? Can they internalize it and actually regurgitate it and not just read off of a piece of paper that they took a ton of notes on? KPI is a key performance indicator. Please tell me if I say acronyms you don't understand. Working at Salesforce for 4 years, I have kind of a second language now. But in terms of the hard skills, especially if you're coming from a non-traditional background or not from directly in sales or sales adjacent position, we'll ask more questions around your preparation or just scenario-based questions on how you may handle things in the role, understanding that some of our typical questions aren't necessarily fair and you won't have an answer. A lot of them we may ask you and say, hey, if we gave you the state of Virginia, how would you go about breaking down that territory? Where do you start and why? I'm not necessarily looking for you to nail that question and getting it right. I'm looking for you to take me through your thought process, make me understand how your brain works, and then I may give you feedback and coaching on what the quote unquote right answer was, and I want to see how you respond to that coaching. Because if you can be coachable, I can teach you almost anything. But if you're not coachable and you're not willing to learn, it's very difficult.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Nate, go ahead, dude.
What is the right answer to that?
Hi, do you want to take a stab at it? Because I know I asked you that question.
Yeah, so I guess it could be looked at in a bunch of different ways, but breaking down within the state of Virginia, different cities, different counties, breaking it down by which ones have the most budget. So maybe breaking down the cities within Virginia by size and then by budget, and then bigger budget, higher tier account to target first in terms of stacking rank of which cities or counties are going to go after.
Nailed it.
The budget. That's really
the most important thing, because if you think of the cities in Virginia, and if you're not familiar with the cities in Virginia, I can do another state, but targeting Lynchburg versus something like Fairfax, two totally different places, right? There's definitely an idea around starting smaller and kind of failing fast and learning fast, but you're going to have a lot more objections. You're going to have to face a lot more adversity in those accounts because they're just smaller. Salesforce is not cheap. What you pay for it's the number one CRM in the world, so we're not going to give it away for free. So if their operating budget for IT in a year is only $5 million and you're trying to put in an enterprise CRM and the implementation and the year one cost is going to be $1 million, they may not have the justification to do a fifth of their budget for just one thing. Whereas in Fairfax County or in Fairfax City, it may be in the billions because there's more population, there's more people. So it allows you to find more deals, but it also allows you to find bigger deals. In the federal space, we do the same thing, right? Haig covers the Coast Guard as part of his territory. So he's starting with the biggest offices with the biggest budgets because we're always chasing 7-figure deals here. The bigger the deals that you can find, the more likely you are to hit your quota, but also the more impact you're going to make with your customer.
So are you guys looking at appropriations data based on when they're pulled out for every fiscal year through the CBO?
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. Cool.
It's all about following the money.
Makes sense.
Caroline?
Yeah, thanks. So on that, sure, you want to go to the budget, but is that would the budget be senior to your customer profile, or would those just be hand in hand because your customer profile would have the money?
Yep, it's kind of hand in hand. You want to make sure we have a technical fit. Salesforce is one of those beautiful platforms that we can do everything. Should we do everything? No. I had a customer once tell me they wanted to host their entire city website on Salesforce. Could we do it? Absolutely. It would be millions of dollars because of how our licensing is. So I told them it's not a great idea. So there's certain things that it's like, yeah, we can do it, but there's maybe other players in there. It's maybe too custom for us and it's going to be out of their budget. So there's a lot of factors that play in. Budget's definitely the most important because if they can't afford us, they're never going to buy us. But you also want to make sure that it fits in with the technical capabilities of Salesforce too. And you want to make sure you have a decision maker, because if you have an analyst level, or in the federal government, if you have a GS1, they're never going to be able to move anything forward. And sometimes that's a very hard lesson for newer AEs, myself included, to learn, because you spend 14 months trying to get someone to close a deal. And they tell you when you ask for the PO that they can't get it.
Thanks, Caroline. Jeremy, did you have another question, or just not put your hand down?
Yes. Talking about the hard skills and preparing for the interview, you could always keep going down the rabbit hole as far as how much knowledge about the product that you have. However, what level are you really looking for a candidate when it comes to familiarity with the product and knowing how to sell it, as opposed to, hey, I'm just a really good salesperson coming to Salesforce, but I don't know your product. Where's that happy medium?
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually coach our reps to not worry about what our products do under the hood. Our customers don't care that we sell Service Cloud. It means nothing to them. They care more about what it does. The analogy I always give new hires is think about the applications or the apps you have on your phone, either your Android or your iPhone. We don't have Instagram, Facebook, whatever on there because of the name of it. We have it on there because of what it does. So you'll get, when it, at Salesforce, when you get scheduled for an interview, our recruiters do a great job of sending you a lot of things that you can look into. I'm looking for you to go beyond that. They may point you to customer stories, which are super important, but did you actually read them? Which ones resonated with you? Do you understand the value that we provided them? Getting a PhD in customer stories at Salesforce is far more important in the BDR world than understanding what does Service Cloud do and what's the difference between Unlimited Edition and Enterprise Edition. We have a ton of resources online. We have Salesforce Plus, which hosts a lot of our former kickoffs, Dreamforce, world tours, any event that we've ever hosted, you name it, it's on there now. So I'm looking for people in their preparation to go a bit above and beyond just what the recruiter got. Because if you aren't willing to do the extra step in your preparation for what might be your dream job, how can I be sure that when your back's against the wall at the end of the month, when you're trying to hit quota, you're not going to go above and beyond to try to do everything you absolutely can to hit your quota?
Guys, I'm going to cut us off at that question. We've burned almost half the meeting on the first question. These are really good rabbit holes, though. I really like the energy and what you guys are bringing. These are things we are going to cover in the program once we kick off in February 26th. Like, the things that Erin are highlighting are the things that we're going to cover specifically in phase 3, with like account planning, understanding how to ask good questions. When you go ask people, your future peers, for information, and you do that networking, the most important question you can ask is, what are the problems you guys solve, and can you give me some examples? And that is the customer stories, that is the case studies, that's understanding the outcomes that these AEs and BDRs are delivering to the customers. If you can start to get a good grasp of that, that's really the problem that you're solving when you're looking to fill a role. So I'm going to move on. These are really good questions, guys. I like where your head's at. The next question is, okay, we got the interview. We're sitting in front of you. Zoom or Google Meet in front of you.
We do in person ones too.
Or in person. What are some things that you've seen? And actually, I'm going to start with Haig on this one. What are some things with you that you've seen, heard, done to differentiate yourself in an interview? And maybe you could tell a personal story. Like, what are some things you did in your interview process that helped you get the job?
Yeah, so Erin kind of hit on it earlier. When you get to that final interview stage of the process, the recruiter gives you this cheat sheet. Like, these are some things you should do heading into it. This is what we recommend. And going above and beyond that, like Erin said, I think was important. And I was lucky that I had someone from Salesforce who was kind of helping me out along through the process, someone who I can go to. So she did say, hey, go outside of that document, and I did. So digging through different Salesforce online content, Salesforce Plus Trailhead is one where you can do training and learn a little bit more about products, or even not products, but maybe the public sector if that's where you're applying. And then during the interview, I think I remember preparing a ton, and then I remember having a ton of really personalized questions. And I think, and Erin, you can speak on this more. I've never hired anyone, but the questions that I think asking the right questions is really important in an interview at the end. So I don't know if you want to hit on that a little bit, Erin.
Erin,
Yeah.
really quick before you, I just want to tell them, I want to pull one thread and just highlight one thing that Haig said was, I had help. We call that person a champion. We're going to go through all this, but you can't, it's very hard to get hired if you don't have an internal champion, someone that's there to kind of help you, guide you, give you the internal scoop on the hiring manager and the team. I had help. And we're going to teach you how to do that, but get help. All right, go ahead, Erin.
Yeah. I forgot the most interesting part of his story too, of getting to Salesforce. He did not get the job at first. He had a panel interview with 2 of our senior directors and a BDR manager who had an opening. For whatever reason, the BDR manager decided to pass. They didn't think that he was the right fit. He did his due diligence in staying connected with our senior director, who I report to, Chris Moffitt, reached out and said, send a thank you email. I am so surprised these days how few people reach back out after an interview and don't give us a thank you for our time. It's a very small thing, but it goes a very long way in my book. I did that with my senior director. I happened to have a spot open up due to a promotion. And Chris came to me and said, you need to talk to Haig. And Chris has been my manager for almost all 4 years of my Salesforce tenure. He knows me better than I know myself, so he knows what I look for. And Haig knocked it out of the park when I met with him, and he got the job on my team. So sometimes it is just being about being tenacious and following up and waiting. Haig was lucky that his wait, I think, was maybe like 2 extra weeks. But yes, back to Haig's point about asking questions, if you don't come prepared to ask me any questions, I have many questions about your curiosity. If you don't want to get to know me, get to know my story, get to know what I look for in a BDR, get to know what BDRs are successful and why, how are you going to be curious on a discovery call where you're trying to qualify a customer, right? We want to be innately curious to understand what is going wrong with their process today. How can we help? Can we even help? And where do they want to get to ideally? So if you're not showing that skill set and that curiosity within the interview, that's where we get your best self, right? That's where you're really trying to sell yourself to us, saying, hey, pick me. I'm the best person for this job right now. And that's a huge part of it that sometimes gets overlooked. Like Andrew said, don't go at it alone. Like I mentioned before, I've been in tech sales my whole career. I had help getting into Salesforce. Mary Jane Toohey, who is a phenomenal champion, if anyone ever needs one, she's I think she covers Air Force. Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong. She's phenomenal. I met her by chance because I was a little hesitant on coming to Salesforce because I had no connection to the public sector. But you start reading about the stories and the impact that a technology can have on someone's life, and you can't help but want to be there. So MJ really helped to prep me on what questions they may ask, where I should look for information, and she is an absolute rock star. I owe a lot of what I learned in getting into this company to her. So get the help, ask for help, build your network, and because they're going to be the ones that can give you the answer to the test. If you do an intro call with me, I'm giving you no answers because I want to see how you think. I want to see what you can do. I don't want to get you 95% of the way there. But in terms of doing well in the interview, the biggest thing for me is just preparation and being yourself. It's okay to be nervous. Some people apologize. I really don't care. Being nervous tells me that you do care about it and that this isn't just another interview for you. But what I'm thinking about as I'm trying to make my decision at the end is there's 3 questions that our senior director will ask us before submitting to our recruiter that we want to hire someone. And it's, do we think they're a star? Do we see them as an AE? And are we excited to bring them in? And if you cannot, without hesitation, answer yes to all 3 of those, you need to take a second and reevaluate your feedback, reevaluate the interview, and figure out why. And if you still can't figure it out, it's just a gut feeling, go to other people that were in the interview, see what they understood, figure out what you may have missed. It's a team effort for all of us. We never go at interviews alone. There's always at least 2 or 3 of us. We do have an inclusive hiring policy at Salesforce, which has been a fantastic thing to add so that we can influence each other's feedback so it's more authentic. But I can tell you with Haig and several others on my team, the ones that have been the stars, it's been from the start an absolute yes on all 3 questions.
I have a kind of a follow-up question on that. Can you talk a little bit about like what is it like internally for you to hire? Like, is there a lot of pressure from your leadership to like get someone quickly, or is it better to like take weeks to get the right person, or are there times where like we have to hire someone by next Friday or else? Like, can you just talk a little bit more about that internal process?
Yeah, for sure. We're very lucky at Salesforce. We always have a steady flow of candidates, so we're really waiting for the right person. I've never had pressure for my manager to hire anyone if I didn't feel they were the right fit. And sometimes he thinks they're the right fit, and I'm like, I'm not so sure yet. There was a candidate that came through that him and I were on the interview together. I'm still early in my management career, so he has years more, hundreds, maybe thousands more interviews under his belt. So sometimes I trust his judgment a little bit more than my own. But there was something in my gut about this one candidate that was like, no, I need to see more. I'm not sold yet. And he felt me kind of pulling back, and he did the right thing and called me. He was like, I don't want you to feel like I'm pressuring you. I'm just really excited about this person. I think they could be a great fit for you. But if you feel you need to see more, you need to see more. You're the one hiring them. So we never really get pressure or on a deadline. I will say with BDR, it's not like we're interviewing a pool of candidates over the course of a month or 2 months and then picking the best ones. It's live time. It's Haig interviewed with me. I felt he was a great fit in the moment. He's worked out pretty well so far, I'd say. And in that moment, I think what Haig did the next day, you got the news from the recruiter saying that you were getting an offer from Salesforce.
I got off the phone with you an hour later. The recruiter called me.
Probably because Haig and I had a 30-minute interview set up. We talked for over an hour, and I think about 25 minutes in, I slacked my senior director and said I'm a yes. So to get back to your question, Andrew, we're lucky that we don't ever get pressured. We usually have at least 2 to 3 interviews a week in BDR. So it's really just waiting for who's the right fit for our team. And sometimes that fit, the definition of that can change based on the makeup of the team. But for me, it's pretty consistent. What are those soft skills? How curious are you? Do you understand our tech? Can you take good coaching and feedback?
That's great. Thank you. All right, I'll pause here. Does anyone have questions before we move on to the third question? Anyone on this one? Jeremy, go ahead, man.
Yeah, sure. We're talking a bit about interviews, and I've talked to this one.
All of us being here,
hey Nate.
Some of us have jobs right now, some of us don't have jobs right now, and in candid conversations, we can often say things like, we're not putting all of our eggs in one basket. Are you looking for people who are putting all of their eggs in one basket, dedicating solely to trying to find Salesforce in that regard? And essentially, and not trying to sound hostile in this, but cutting their own other opportunities out there, or at least just not showing that they're pursuing other opportunities out there?
No, I don't personally have a problem with it. Other managers may have a different school of thought. Can you hear us, Nate?
I can hear you now.
Okay. I don't personally have a problem with you not putting all your eggs in one basket. I operate the exact same way. When I interviewed for BDR at Salesforce, I overanalyze a lot in my life. There were a couple questions that I wasn't super confident in my answer, and the feedback that I got, especially the one where they said, where do you want to be in 5 years? And I said a BDR manager. And they're like, oh, we look for people that stay in sales. And Chris Moffitt to this day says that's not what he said, but I have a much better memory than he does. And so I panicked. I went and found another interview because I didn't like having all my eggs in one basket and I thought I wasn't getting the job. Coming back as a manager is the only time that it's been the only job I've ever interviewed for when I was looking. I always like to have options personally. If nothing else, to pressure the hiring manager a little bit to make a decision. When Chris Moffitt called me as BDR saying you got the job, I said, great, I need an offer letter by Friday because I have one in my hand already. So it can help to put the pressure. I will say Salesforce is pretty strict on negotiating salaries and using other stuff like that to negotiate, especially at the BDR level. But it does help us show, to me, it's not a red flag at all. It helps me show that you're serious about getting into sales. I may poke a little bit deeper in why Salesforce is on your list and where we fall on your list if you're at other big tech companies. But it's not a problem for me at all.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Jeremy, did you have a question too?
Yeah, sure. We're talking about the interview process, and in this line of work, a big killer difference between a couple of candidates is that person's ability to build trust with the client. With a couple of people I've talked to, it's striking to me because both of them had mentioned that their bosses in their review to them said, hey, don't underestimate how likable you are when it comes to interactions with the client.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you lean into that. So that should say that it's important in the recruitment and acquisition process as well. How much of a play is it, hey, I just really like this candidate as a person. I see that representing my team's brand.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say for me, it's not a huge part of it. It's definitely weighs in it. Because at the end of the day, in sales, people want to work with people they like. If you're only calling your customer when they need to sign a contract for you, they're not going to answer your calls any other time when you need them to get something across the finish line for you. So it's definitely an important part. I don't know if I could put a number on it to say like how much of an important part it is, but at Salesforce, we don't hire BDRs because we think they're going to be a great BDR. We hire people because we think they have the potential to be a great account executive and a great salesperson long term. So when I think about that, I think about the 3 buckets that you need to keep in mind when you're looking to get that first promotion into our ECS position. And it all has to do with your performance on the dashboard, your performance off the dashboard, and your brand at Salesforce. So it's on the dashboard, how are you performing in the BDR role? Are you hitting our metrics? Are you hitting quota consistently? If not, why? They want a story behind that. Off the dashboard, are you a good teammate? How do you handle yourself around your team when things aren't going well for you? Do you hold yourself off? Do you lash out? Or do you reach out to people and say, hey, I'm struggling and I actually need help? And then your brand is just like, who are you around the office? Do you treat people with respect? Do you reach out and network? Because at Salesforce, I can tell you a very easy way to get passed on for promotion is when you're sitting down with the hiring manager and it's the first time you're meeting them in the interview. It's a big red flag to them if they get a interview on their calendar and they reach out to me and say, who is this person? I'm like, oh, that's one of my refs. Why don't you know them? Tell me more. So I would say in my interviews, like obviously you don't have the chance to necessarily do that and build a relationship with me. So I am looking for, are you a likable person? How are you professionally? Do you have a good teammate aspect to you? But I'm also looking for what are those soft skills? Do you understand the technology that we're selling? Do you understand how to work in an enterprise team? And do you have an inkling of how you may attack a sales job?
I'm going to add on to that, like,
sure.
Specifically for this group, like, I just want to say, like, all of you are likable people. I wouldn't have invited you to join the Arena program if there wasn't something special about you that I felt like was going to contribute to the group. Some of you heard me say the phrase, as iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. Like, all of you have the potential to sharpen each other and help each other out. I think likability is, it's like a bonus. There's something, and Erin put it really well, like, there's something special when you call your customer and they pick up the phone. Like maybe you guys don't know this, you don't know this yet, but when you call your customer and they pick up the phone and it's unannounced call, they're not expecting your call and they're just happy to help you. And then they do it again the next week, and then they do it again 2 weeks later. And then you find consistently like they're open to talking to me because I'm not constantly trying to sell them. I'm actually trying to help them. So yes, I think like I agree, Erin. I think likability is important. It's certainly not the only thing. You actually have to help them. Like you actually have to be good at your job and good at solving problems. If you're just a really funny guy, like that's cool for like 1 or 2 meetings, but like your mom jokes don't take you to the finish line. You know, they're good jokes, but they're not going to close business for you. Someone has their hand up.
Yeah.
Jeremy.
Oh, Nate, go for it.
Oh, who else was it? No, Jeremy had it as well. You go first if you'd like.
You're on mute, Jeremy.
You're on mute.
All right. So thanks. So I have talked to a few people, individual contributors from Salesforce. So very Salesforce specific question. I get all the time, and it's on Trailblazers, it's on Salesforce's motto even, how much you care about the team environment. You sort of push away the idea of individual contributors trying to grab the biggest deal possible. Everybody's trying to help each other. You're all on the same team, unified goal of helping the mission of Salesforce's CRM, helping the most people as possible. And I got that a bunch of times with a lot of people. And then I ran into 2 or 3 connections in a row where I was sort of emphasizing in myself in my career how many times I've worked on a team and been able to reach out, help people, or have them help me. But they sort of pushed back and said, hey, when you go to your interview process, you need to emphasize how good of an individual contributor you are. Are those one-offs for those people, or is there, a Salesforce, hey, this is how we are, we're a team, but then you still need to perform?
Great question. I personally only have experience in public sector at Salesforce, so if any of those folks are from commercial, there definitely are teams in commercial where it's like, it's me, myself, and I have a number to hit. I'm the only one to do it. I can tell you from my own personal experience being an AE at Salesforce, but also in our partner network, you will not find any success here if you go at it alone. There was a record-breaking deal at the Veterans Administration last year. When they did the congratulations post, they tagged 75 people that helped to get that deal closed. There's only 12 AEs in that agency for us. So it wasn't just one AE, one BDR. It's a whole team effort, every single deal, no matter the size. When I was in ECS, I needed a demo. My SE had to help me. I couldn't do it myself. Partners don't always have the best demos, so I had to rely on her internally. And if we didn't have a good relationship, she had no incentive to help me, right? And we had a rocky road. We weren't the best partners to each other when we started. And we just had kind of a very honest, very uncomfortable conversation about how we're going to work with each other moving forward. And it helped us exponentially throughout the year to work better together and understand why we were in this together. Especially the model that we have in public sector now, we call it a C360 selling model. There's one kind of quarterback AE, maybe a couple per account or per set of accounts. They're owning a go-to-market strategy, but they need to be able to work with upwards of 5 or 6 additional AEs that are also calling into and trying to sell to the same organization. If you don't have that team atmosphere, it's 6 or 7 people going at it very separately, makes us look very disjointed to the customer, makes us look like we don't know what's going on. We lack a strategy, and that really doesn't sit well with a lot of federal agencies. So I would say, yes, that was probably a one-off, but if they're in public sector, they know how important the team aspect is. You can't have success in our unit and do it alone.
Nate, or not Nate, sorry. Nate, I know you're next, but Jeremy, on that question, I can go into a ridiculous amount of detail because I was that AE that had like 6 other AEs I had to work with, going Slack, Tableau, MuleSoft, like all the things. And I was the head AE, but I had to coordinate with everyone. And there'd be times where I get customers like, hey, Slack reached out to me. Is that a thing? Like, what's Slack? You know? So we could talk about it more later, but yes, being a team player is very important. Nate, you had a question?
So you'd mentioned, you gave a quick little example about calling your customer when they're not expecting it. How do you feel about the idea of sort of muddying the water between professional to creating an actual relationship with your customers so that you essentially become friends? Because after all, in the general idea of sales is people buy from people they like. Are you looking for people who are able to bridge that gap, or able to break that barrier and develop real long-term meaningful relationships with their customers, that these people are checking in on them, going to barbecues and doing those types of things versus keeping it just strictly professional?
Yes, is the short answer. I had a unique experience during ECS at Salesforce where my entire tenure was during COVID and my states were all out west, so I did not get to have the barbecues with my customers. I was supposed to, and then the world shut down. But I can tell you it was a blessing in disguise, because what I did when I started is I took every single customer that spent money with us, reached out to them, did an intro call, asked them all about how they use us, who their partner was, did they like them, what's their roadmap, tried to understand like where they saw Salesforce playing a role in the future. And then I asked them, let's set up a quarterly meeting. And my ask of them, I said, I have one favor to ask as one of your AEs. If you ever see my name pop up on your phone and you just go, ugh, I don't want to talk to her, like, please tell me, because that means I'm not doing my job well. A lot of the philosophy at Salesforce, it's a very different sales organization than a lot of big tech companies. A lot of salespeople, understandably, are in it for the money, which is totally fine. At Salesforce, the customer needs to be your number one priority, because if they are not successful, we're not successful. I always make a joke in my sales interviews that I am a sales manager's worst nightmare as an individual contributor, because I will put my paycheck on the back burner and do whatever it takes to make sure my customer is successful and happy. There were a bunch of times that on my quarterly meetings with customers, they would ask me questions on things that had nothing to do with revenue generating opportunities for me. It was, hey, we want to take our licenses and add more capability to it. When I asked them a few more questions, it wasn't any deal for me. It was a deal for a partner to further implement on Salesforce. Go ahead.
So you guys, so the Salesforce has a customer success arm of the managed service platform?
They do. It has changed so much over the last couple of years. Andrew, you probably have the most up-to-date information on how it actually works, but it constantly changes. So there is one. You have to pay for it to get it. But it's our second biggest value. Our biggest one is we lead with trust, but our second one is that our customer success. The customers are the center of everything we do. And in sales, if that's not true for you, you're gonna have a very hard time having your customers be your champion, because you're only calling them when you need them to push a sale through. You're not there to actually help them be successful on the platform.
So that actually pivots into the site. Do you serve as the AE, as the customer success representative as well?
Sometimes.
So you do have dedicated representatives who
We
serve.
do. It depends on if you're paying for it. It depends on how much you spend with us annually. So for example, state of Colorado spends a ton more money with Salesforce than the state of South Dakota. South Dakota didn't have any customer success. So when I had a customer there that was doing enterprise grant management for COVID loans, they called me for help. And they said, Erin, our portal's not working. And I knew enough to be dangerous, but usually I would ask my SE for help, and she would be like, is this for a customer? I'm not supposed to help. I'm like, please, just please. And since we had a good relationship, she'd give me her 2 cents, but they're not actually allowed to give implementation advice. So then I would pull the partner in, because the partner was actively implementing it. And I would say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Am I on the right track? But I would just do it just to help my customer, because one, it was COVID and everything was like, we needed this live 6 months ago. But also it was just the right thing to do.
So you would toe the line on scope, slightly going beyond scope in order to be able to continue the relationship with the customer, yet keep it within scope by not going, say, 100 hours over budget on the LOE, only keeping it in the 5 to 10 hour range. Perfect. Fantastic. That's awesome.
Yeah. And some of my customers during COVID, I learned about their kids. I met a lot of their wives. I mean, one of my customers, the one who ended up not being a decision maker after 14 months, he quit his state job and ran for mayor. And I So I donated to his campaign. So
That's awesome.
yeah, he didn't win, so it's a bummer, but it's okay. But you get to learn these people's lives. I mean, it was also just a weird time that no one knew what was going on. I didn't feel comfortable cold calling people in March of 2020. I was like, I'm not about to ask for your money until I figure out how we can help. But having those customer relationships that I had already built the month before was incredibly helpful, because I would call them and I'd just be like, hey, Scott, I'm just having a bad day. How you doing? And he's like, you want to switch jobs? I don't want to work in state government anymore. I'm like, great, let's do it.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, so just be a human, be their friend. It's totally fine.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Of course.
I'm going to bring this to a natural close here, guys. We're going to kind of skip the last question, and I feel like we have gotten a lot of questions in. I appreciate everyone's energy. Everyone's asking really good questions. And we're going to continue to bring more people like Erin in. You guys are going to be exposed to more people. Next week, we have Matt Bullion, who was a tech sales top performer and then went on to run his own business as a HubSpot partner. So we're going to jump over and talk to some HubSpot folks.
I won't take it personally.
But these are really good questions. I really appreciate everybody. I want to thank Erin and Haig. You guys have been awesome. I really appreciate the time you guys are spending with us tonight. I do have a few announcements for the arena folks. Before we close out, Mark, I know you're off camera, but did you have any thoughts or comments? If you're there, probably off with your kids.
I'm here. Yep, the 2-year-old woke up, so he's just staring at me with his bottle, but it's cool. Okay. Yeah, thanks to Erin and Haig. Really appreciate the insights. Great answers. The arena members brought some great questions. I thought you guys handled them well and gave a lot of advice, so I appreciate giving back to our community.
Of course. Thank you all for your service. I will say, please reach out to me if you have any questions or help. I'm always willing to hop on a call and help. If you want to learn more about that elusive third question of how to do well in the role, Haig is a great example. So Haig, I'm going to open up your DMs too. Please reach out to him. Yeah. He has been onboarding beautifully and is making a great impact so far in his very short time with us.
Thanks, guys. So I'm going to ask one question, maybe two. So one question that maybe you guys are all wondering and haven't asked is, Erin, are you hiring, or is anyone hiring at Salesforce right now?
BDR is kind of always hiring. We turn over our team pretty consistently every 8 to 12 months because of our promotion cycle, but also it's a hard job. Not everyone, unfortunately, makes it to promotion. So I do not have any spots on my team yet, but I do have one rep that is promotion eligible, so I am anticipating some movement soon. We also have some openings that are newer that we're still kind of splicing out where they're going to go, because we've had some movement on our team as of today. We had a manager get promoted. Haig, do not say anything. I'm trusting you with that. But we're still trying to figure out where those heads are going to land. So short answer is yes, we are hiring, and I am anticipating to have a spot soon.
What is the best place they could go to learn? Is the careers page like if headcount opens today, does that hit the careers page today, or does it usually take several days or weeks?
So they've changed the BDR because of our, I don't know how closely you all followed tech sales this time last year. Salesforce went through a very big restructure and a very large layoff. The recruiting team was hit very hard during that. So to try to streamline their process, they've changed how they post our jobs. So they have one BDR posting for any BDR team on the East Coast. So you would apply to the business development representative East, and Andrew, I can email you the external link. But basically they would look at your location and see what hub you're closest to, and that's how they would match you up. So our hubs on the East Coast for BDR are New York City, Washington, D.C., technically McLean, Virginia, and Atlanta. So you would be required to be close enough that you can make it into the office 3 to 4 days a week. But you would just apply to that, and based on your location, they would route you to the proper team. So my team is all out of McLean. The New York City BDRs are a mix of some commercial teams. There's some retail, there's some financial services, other stuff up there. I forget who's in Atlanta these days, but there's another big hub of BDRs down there.
I might be in Sterling.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And I might be from McLean, but yeah.
Well, okay, guys. So I've been telling you about reaching out to people, growing your network. Each of you should at least try to connect with Erin and Haig on LinkedIn. I just want to say, like, kind of a disclaimer here, though, like, don't abuse these relationships, right? Like, Erin's very busy, Haig's very busy. They're both probably getting inundated with LinkedIn messages. I'm certainly not saying don't reach out, but just be respectful of these connections that I'm bringing to you guys. All right, so now I'm going to transition to some specific arena program announcements. First, each of you should, if Erin or Haig, you want to roll, you can. If you want to stick around for the announcements, you can also stick around. But if you guys have to go, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm going to drop. Thank you, everyone. It was great to meet you. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Erin.
I'm also going to head out. I appreciate it, everyone. Thank you. And looking forward to connecting further.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
See you guys.
So each of you should be getting a goodie bag of stuff soon. I have all your mailing addresses. You guys hopefully put in correct mailing addresses in the Google form that I sent you. If you haven't, please do so, because my plan is to go to the post office tomorrow or Saturday, hopefully, and start sending some things out to you guys. Please make sure you've joined the Facebook group. And also, if you go into arena.vet and log in, there is a new training that I put in, the affiliate training. So I added the spreadsheet to manage your leads. I added the training document that I was sharing with you guys, and I updated it with some examples. And then I also added the recording to the affiliate training. There are a few new people here, so I haven't been able to explain affiliate training. It's all in there, but essentially the affiliate program exists to give you guys an opportunity to go out and try to convince a stranger to take a meeting with Mark or I, and then you guys get a kickback. If you haven't heard of a spiff is a special incentive to sell more stuff in a short period of time. So we are running a spiff here for the affiliate program. So if you get a referral to Mark or I, and they sign up between now and February 26th, normally the kickback is $500, but for the next 25 days, it's $1,000. So if you send me a referral, they sign up, kickback's $1,000 to you guys until the 26th. We are going to cap the program at 20, because I do want this to be a small, intimate group. We're at 12 right now. I think you guys would appreciate it if it was a small, intimate group. Like, really, the goal is to give the best experience to you guys. And I think anything over 20 is just probably too much. Yeah. Next is, like, I really want you guys to engage on the Facebook group. And I know I haven't been given a lot of instruction or direction around it, but first, and I was going to make a post, but I thought I just announced it today. If each of you could go on the Facebook group and just introduce yourselves, just who I am, where I'm from, service, and then maybe, like, I don't know, top 3 companies you're thinking of looking for, or maybe the companies some of you guys are actively interviewing, so companies you've interviewed with. This is supposed to be a community and a forum where you guys can share insights, share ideas. Colin has been interviewing with folks, like, he's actively interviewing right now. Matt Murato, actively interviewing right now. Who else is actively interviewing? I think that's it as far as people that I've worked with specifically. But yeah, like, share these insights that you're learning, Colin and Matt, with each other or with the group. So the homework between now and, I don't know, let's see if we can't get it done by Monday, is go in the Facebook group, introduce yourself, a little bit about yourself, where you came from, service, and then companies you're looking to target, and that's it for now. If you haven't registered for the February 8th webinar, please do, with Matt Bullion, a week from today, 8:30 p.m. That's all I got. Any questions for me? These were great questions tonight, guys, by the way. Like, you guys, really good stuff. I really appreciate the engagement. You guys obviously came prepared. Really good stuff.
Lux, I got your LinkedIn invite. If you want to hit me up and talk a bit about how your transition is going, just hit when we can set that up. As for everyone else, my name's Nate. I'm around. You guys want to talk, chit chat, grab drinks? I'm down. I am in DC though, so there is that caveat.
Thanks, Dan.
a bit away, but we'll consider it.
Any questions you got or comments for me? Anything you guys need from me? Am I just like crushing it right now? Go ahead.
Sorry, quick question. To sign up for that webinar, do you send out an email for that and we just register through the email?
So for the webinar next week, go ahead and sign up at arena.vet. It's like I put it on the front page, huge free webinar sign up. So sign up at arena.vet. Matt's a solid dude. I was explaining to a few people today, Matt and I go way back. So I went through TechQual, Mark went through TechQual. Matt and I were in cohort 2 at TechQual. Like we were the guinea pigs at TechQual. And at that point that TechQual was going through, or their curriculum consisted of a lot of like partnered training. So you would have a partner that you would train with, do mock interviews, mock cold calls and stuff like that. Matt was my partner. We did a lot of mock interviews together. And Matt's a West Point grad, freaking Rhodes Scholar, like graduated like second in his class at West. Like he's a genius of a human. Like he should be an astronaut, but he's in sales. And so he's very good at sales and also a genius, which is just like a dangerous combo. Dude's gonna be like, he's gonna run the next Uber one day. He's just a super sharp guy, and he's really likable. He's a good guy. You guys are gonna enjoy talking with Matt. So if you can be there, please, or if you can make it, please be there. Anything else for me?
I do have one quick question for you, Drew. How do you know Kyle Eckhart?
Kyle Eckhart sounds very familiar.
Think about it. Let me know. I play poker with him every few weeks, so.
I love poker.
Come down to the VFW in Falls Church every other Thursday.
I can't, dude, because I'm going to take all your money. It's going to be a big mess.
That's what the last group of officers said, and then we took the money and they never came back.
What stakes?
$20 buy-in.
Nice.
Yeah, it's more gentlemanly. Where it's a bunch of IC.
Is there beer?
It's a VFW. There's plenty of beer.
What?
Then that's all I need to know.
All right. I'll buy your first one, and then you buy me the rest of the night as you're paying me back for all the money I take from you.
All right, guys. If that's it, I think the next group meeting we have is next Thursday. So if you guys need anything from me, also, yeah, I haven't really fully announced this, but if you need anything from me, some people, I need to get better at this. This is a learning experience for me too. Like, save my cell. Like, all of you have the ability to text me. Like, we are all on texting terms now. So if you need something from me, you got a question, anything, like, we should be texting. So feel free to text me. Also, if you're like, I need time, like I need like 30 minutes with Andrew, like feel free to go on arena.vet and just book like a 30-minute coaching call with me. Or just text me and ask like, hey, do you have time right now? Like, so you guys can you have access to me. Caroline.
You mentioned earlier that you wanted to do intro calls again. I don't want to assume anybody else's schedule, but maybe we could like log in 15-30 minutes before the Thursday thing, and that could kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring that up since you mentioned it.
Thank you, man.
One step, Andrew.
I know. You're like keeping me in line. No, that's good. I did mention that we got some new members, and I want you guys to meet each other and get familiar with each other. So yeah, here's what I'll do is the webinar. I can't really make it to where like, oh no, I guess you can just log in earlier because it's through like a fixed Zoom thing. It's a little different than tonight. So why don't we do that? And I'll send a reminder. Everyone join 15 minutes early if you can. It's not required, but I would like you guys to introduce yourselves. Everyone kind of do a little round robin. Spend 90 seconds introducing yourself, where you're coming from and what you're looking for, on top of the Facebook group. I still want you to do the Facebook group, but yeah, it'd be nice if we could start to get to know each other a little bit. You guys are going to be doing work together. Like some of the assignments we're doing, like it's going to require you guys to interact. You're going to get uncomfortable with each other and familiar with each other as I start. Anyone that was on the affiliate training program, I'm going to start calling you guys out to do random stuff. Nate, you got to
the invite for the 8th.
So there's not an invite. You got to register for the webinar at arena.vet.
Okay.
Cool.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah, text me if you got any questions.
I'll call you. Whatever.
All right. All right, guys. See ya. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Night.
Nice beard, Colin.